Alright, number 7 from the Tao Te Ching. The Tao is infinite, eternal. Why is it eternal? It was never born. Thus it can never die. Why is it infinite? It has no desires for itself. Thus it is present for all beings. The master stays behind, that is why she is ahead. She is detached from all things, that is why she is one with them. Because she has let go of herself, she is perfectly fulfilled. So, the Tao is infinite, eternal. Why is it eternal? It was never born, thus it can never die. So it's just this thing, this idea of like going beyond birth and death, like something that's just constant and just limitless, infinite, mysterious, something beyond what we're normally associated with when it comes to living and dying, but something that is infinite, forever. It has no desires for itself. Why is it infinite? It has no desires for itself. Thus it is present for all beings. So it gets me to think about like having no ego. So you can't have, when you have no ego, then there's no such thing as like I. And then you could be connected to everything, like not just all people, all beings, all human beings, but even with nature, connected with nature and the animals and the plants and the trees and the universe, and just being at one with everything. Like you're not separated from everything. It's not an ego of like of being separate. You know, you're connected to everything. You're at one with everything. The master stays behind. That is why she is ahead. So the master stays behind. That is why she is ahead. So the thing is like very opposite of what we're used to in this culture. Everybody wants to be number one, fighting for number one, and there can only be like one person that can be number one, and it's very stressful to constantly be fighting, you know, for that number one position, and it's not something that can last forever, or it's not something that can be consistent. You know, it's like it's always going to be changing, you know. And this one is basically saying, like, when you stay behind, like, there's nothing. It takes away all that stress from striving to be number one, and it's almost like when you're in the back, you don't have to take on all that pressure, you know, that comes with being number one. So it's similar to like people that might bike or race, where the person that's in the front is going to take on all that headwind. When you're behind that person, like, they take on all that headwind, and then you just kind of, you follow, and then you're kind of at ease because you're not the first one taking in all that wind. So, like, when you're behind, it's like you could last longer, and it could be more consistent and more there's more longevity to that. So it's like it's impossible to stay number one for a lifetime, or for a very long time. But if you are behind, like, you might not even have to be at the very behind, like last, but you're not number one, but you're moving along with the flow, and you could basically keep that flow going for your entire life. And because of the consistency of staying at it for a very long time, even though you're not like number one, but because you stayed at it for such a long time, and you had that type of consistency, it's because of that you stay ahead. So it's like the whole idea of like the tortoise and the hare just using up all their energy to try to be number one, but the tortoise is not fighting to be number one, but it's just because of the consistency and the longevity, then that because of that they end up becoming ahead, because they didn't overexert themselves with too much energy, so then they were able to sustain that for their entire lives. So then when we look at the bigger picture, they get ahead over the hare, because the hare is just basically exhausting so much of their energy fighting for that number one, and then they just give out. So it might be similar to maybe these like contact sports like football and wrestling and boxing, where they put themselves through so much stress in their bodies and so much pain and injuries that some of these athletes may die young or die earlier than they have to, because they put their bodies through so much, compared to somebody who doesn't engage in these dangerous types of activities, and then they just live longer, and they're able to be healthier and almost probably live twice as long. So it's just this whole idea of like being content with being natural, doing things at ease, opposed to stressing yourself too much by working too hard, and then it can lead to like an early death. She is detached from all things. That is why she is one with them. So detachment, it's similar to like not having an ego and just accepting things as they are, as is, being natural, being at one with nature, letting go when it's time to let go. And it's just the acceptance of the positive and the negative, of the yin yang, and not having judgment of like one being better than the other. And then that allows you to just truly be connected with everything around you. Because she has let go of herself, she is perfectly fulfilled. So because she has let go of herself, so I would look at that as like letting go of the ego. You let go of the ego, and then now you're completely fulfilled. So that's like being completely content. So I think the ego is what causes discontent. So if you let go of the ego, then you find contentment. It's the mind, it's the ego that causes unfulfillment and discontent. You let go of that, then that allows you to be in the present and at one with everything.